Welcome back again to Hampton Lake Homestead. It's rainy right now. I hope I'll be able to finish this video. But today's question is, to mulch or not to mulch? If you saw my last video, you know that a lot of it was about mulching. And I mentioned that here in my Three Sisters beds, I'm using primarily a leaf mulch in the grow areas, and then I often use wood chips in the walkways. I usually post these videos to several Facebook gardening groups that I'm members of. And within the comments, you see varied responses. Some are excited to see the mulch being used and talk about how they often do the same thing. And then others are totally against it. And then there are others who are against using leaves and recommend using other things such as wood chips or hay or straw or whatever. So what I want to do today is to go over again what I've been doing with this experiment with these Three Sisters beds. If you'll remember from the second video, which I'll provide a link to, I discussed how I planted each of these three beds differently. One of which where I kept the mulch pretty much in place, and then in the other two beds, I first raked it well out of the way so that over time I could compare how the three beds did. I haven't really per se gone over that again since I originally did it, so today I would just very simply like to show the differences between the three beds of corn. So stay tuned. Okay, so to go over these three beds again, this bed to the right, the one I'm zooming in on, is bed 1. It is the one where I pulled back leaves just a few inches around each place where I planted a seed, so that all in all, the mulch was left in place during the planting. And as you may remember, a lot of the leaves fell back into the areas that I had cleared. So you could basically say that I planted this with the mulch in place. And you can see the color of the corn and the height of the corn. A lot of it is now close to 15 feet tall. Now here in this second bed, I first raked the mulch completely out of the way and left it raked out of the way for about 2 weeks or even 3 weeks before I returned it to the plants. So what I'm seeing here are nearly identical corn. The height is similar, and the color and health and vigor of the corn is similar. And also, in case you don't remember, both of these rows were planted by hand, each seed being planted at 1 foot intervals. Now this is the row or the bed where I also raked the leaves completely out of the way, but I also used my planter for planting the corn seeds, and then I later thinned it and actually ended up having to transplant several of them. And if you will recall, the latter end of this row required almost exclusive transplants. And you can see there is a definite decrease in vigor in these plants. The first row looks pretty good. The second row, the one on my side, you know, these plants, some of these probably won't even produce any corn, these down toward this end. So, bottom line, what I'm seeing here at this point, and again, it hasn't started putting on corn yet, although I am starting to see some tassels in the tops of some of this corn. But so far, what I'm seeing in comparing leaving mulch in place, which was what was done in this bed, to removing the mulch, I'm seeing very little, if any, difference at this point. And I also discussed in the beginning how much more attention this bed needed. I had to water it just about every day. This one I watered occasionally, but for the most part it was very self-reliant. I didn't have to do much with it at all. And so again, the question is, to mulch or not to mulch? At this point, I believe my answer is to mulch. Again, there's very little difference between the beds where the mulch was left in place and the ones where it was removed. And a lot less energy was put into those beds since I didn't have to water as much. In the last video, I also mentioned the benefits of controlling weeds with mulch. So between moisture retention and weed inhibition, those are both great reasons to use mulch. But there are more benefits than just that. For one thing, the mulch breaks down and forms compost, which later becomes the next layer of soil that I'll plant into. Another benefit is that it provides substrate or food to the microbiota that are in the soil. I was able to do a soil sample this year called a Haney test, which I did through Ward Laboratories. And I was very pleasantly surprised to find that my soil microbiota, the beneficial microorganisms, were extremely high. By continuing to use these mulches and cover crops as I've started doing, all of that carbon provides substrate to the microbiota so they continue to increase in number, which continues to benefit the health of the soil. And then of course there are earthworms. This garden is literally teeming with earthworms, and the more of the mulch that you add, the more that they come to feed on that, and of course then they provide worm castings, which gives even more nitrogen to the soil. I did show in another of my videos how this compost does attract slugs, and I have started seeing slugs again. So I'm not saying everything about using mulch is perfect and ideal, but so far I feel that the benefits far outweigh the detriments, and for now I will keep using it. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks again for watching.